So I was originally going to, well, I shouldn't say originally, obviously. Originally, the plan was to keep doing the RPG today. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about switching my schedule around a bit and streaming Monday through Friday. Not really having a scheduled game on any of those days. Um, I decided not to do that because I think keeping a little bit of consistency, at least today, where I already stated I'd be continuing with Ultima, would be the right call. In the future, though, the games are probably just going to be whichever one of the plan games I feel like playing, which could end up, if I'm really into whatever RPG, playing a lot of the RPG on consecutive days. I should probably just turn off the Phantom Bot tweet thing and just be doing my own tweets. Since it seems like it has stopped working for whatever reason. Okay. Somewhere. There we go. Now I did look up, last time, after, the actual weapon and armor values. Which is why, once we get into it, there will be... Yeah, the daggers are worthless. They are one attack. Now my bag's still a mess. I don't really care. The two-handed hammer is effectively a slightly worse halberd. It has a little bit longer range than the axe, but it does a little bit less damage than the axe. I'm also drawing a blank on what actually has the top weapon values at the moment. At least of the unenchanted stuff. Obviously, the enchanted stuff is going to be much stronger. I think it's the two-handed sword is the really good weapon there. Just because, of course, it being a fantasy game, they wanted to have swords be really strong. And something I didn't show off is, since we have the abacus, we have this little cross thing telling us where we are. It is really nice to have. And one of the first things we will be doing... Oh, and for... in the off chance that anybody didn't notice it, we're now, I decreased the pixel scaling by 1 and dropped the resolution that I'm playing at to 1280 by 720. I don't think this is going to mess anything up with Blackgate. Blackgate was always a little bit more stable than Serpentile. Unsurprisingly, the one that EA forced out super early was super buggy. But even under Exalt, the slightly changed resolution tends to be mostly fine. And I'm looking for a specific tree here. I always have trouble finding it. I don't think I'm far enough south is the issue. Ah, here we are. Now, do you see the treasure chest? I know I don't. Always have trouble seeing this one. I think there's a key nearby, but I also know it doesn't matter. Don't stand in the way. Oh, and since I have the SFX currently disabled, I'll turn those back on for a moment so we can hear why I keep those disabled. Do the lock chests just take a lot more hits than I remember? Yes, yes they do. Oh, yeah, that's the reason. Has very little to do with the sound effects from when okay, so there's a fair amount of cash here, which I'm getting instead of the gloves. There is, as I established last time, the only gloves that matter, or the only boots that matter. There's a shield, a full set of magic armor, which is mostly irrelevant. It's not going to be, well, it's useful late, but it's not a huge difference most of the game. I believe in Blackgate we can only equip one ring. And that's not a Lord of the Rings joke or anything. That's, I think we only have one ring slot. Now, the regeneration sounds like it would be useful. Yeah, I think that's just the one. Oh no, we actually do have both. Okay. Yeah, and there's two swords here. There's a sword of defense and a fire sword. If we had sound effects on, that would be another reason not to use the fire sword. As is. Actually, yeah, I think I'm going to have Spark and... Why did that go in the... Oh. Oh. Does Blackgate not allow use of... Blackgate doesn't allow you to do rings and gloves. That's interesting. I don't know what the value of the gloves versus the rings are. I think the rings... I think this ring of protection is as strong as a regular set of gauntlets. So... I will put those on Spark, and that way I won't have to really worry about it. But that's annoying. And we're fully decking out the avatar and the magic stuff because she is by far the most important character. Oh, yeah, we have... This can go back into the avatar's inventory. Along with some fish. That apparently doesn't weigh very much. Well, in that case, let's drop some of the stuff we're not going to use. Inventory management's kind of a hassle. It's one of the reasons why we really don't need that. And we use that key. You know, and we don't need the bucket of blood. Much as I'd like to have the bucket of blood because it's funny. It's really not useful. Okay, so did that clear up enough? How much? Bolts weigh a lot if I'm... An empty pouch weighs 2? Man, the weight in this game is just all sorts of weird. And Spark continuing the trend of outfitting the more useful characters. We'll get the... I do have to make sure that that did get equipped. Somewhere around here. And he's also going to get that defense sword, which will help with making sure he doesn't take quite so many hits. And I think that's good. I think that's everything. We did grab a extra pair of gloves from the ground. Actually, since I don't know... Oh, thank you for the follow. I don't know if Shamino and Dupre come equipped. I'm gonna make sure I have extras. Even of the boots. I know they have weapons. And now, we need to start making our way up to the Lord British's castle. Oh, no, that's just walking through foliage. Most of the time when you, when the game slows down, it's intentional slowdown because the speed drops if enemies are nearby. Presumably that was done so that you could do combat slightly more tactically, but it always felt more like just the game was really poorly optimized. And here we're passing by the play area. That is actually an important character, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know if we actually have the ability to speak to the fox right now. And... you know, I know there's a flag for that. I don't care enough to figure it out. Fortunately, YOLO is the only one that is not wearing swamp boots. So if I just, you know, keep walking more towards the right side, you'll be fine. I am going to keep clicking on all those even though I never bothered with setting that flag. I'll figure it out for next time. Now, pause has always been poor, but, I guess with, Ultima 7, it is especially poor. And I'm occasionally going to be bringing up the map just because I don't remember exactly where we need to go. I'm kind of bad overall with directions. And as I established last time, I'm going to try to provide a little bit of extra time, although I know I'm bad at actually providing the extra time to read items. And of course, you know, we've already established that the game is bad-mouthing the Fellowship left and right. We don't really have a dog in the fight, so that's fine. Now, the interesting thing is that the Fellowship overall, from what we've seen, seems fine for most of the people. Most of the people in it seem perfectly fine. It's just the people who have any sort of position of power that are bad. Which at this point, you know, it kind of begs the question of, is it the Fellowship that's bad, or is it the position of power that's bad? Now, obviously, if you've played the game, it becomes obvious that it's the Fellowship that is bad. But, that's not really that, it doesn't really feel internally consistent necessarily that it's entirely the Fellowship being bad. Because prior games had issues of when you give people, you know, undue or unearned power. So. Would probably help if I could keep clicking on the window instead of outside of the window. Now, this is, for most people, probably the spot where they could potentially realize, oh, there's flour on the floor. And if you have a bucket, you can sometimes. I guess this is once again one of those scenarios where we don't have the right table. Whatever. I know there's a baker in, is it Britain? I don't really remember the name of any town until I see it, because I'm, you know, trying to remember this stuff from ages ago. And it's coming back in bits and pieces for the most part. Now, nothing really important is in pause. I don't believe any of our companions. I don't believe any potential companions are in pause. I could be misremembering. Good companions, I should say. Jana might have been there. And of course, since Garriott knows very little classical music, well, we want that, no, we actually want somebody else to carry it. We need to transfer more things off of YOLO. That bag of reagents is really heavy. For some reason. And yeah, until we get a sufficient number of people, we will be, oh, that's a, hourglass or something. I was thinking that was an anvil. Regardless, our first goal is really going to just be see Lord British. The play is really not important. And of course a reference to Excalibur. Well, the Sword and the Stone anyway, since there is no real consistency. And we are not the next Lord of Britannia. And that is the actual castle. And here is the worst character. And you know, one of the best things you can do in most of these games is kill Chuckles. And Lord British, who has somehow not become old in the same time span that YOLO did become old in. Now, that rumble actually was a reference to the expansion pack. I believe I mentioned it when it happened, but and if the way that, you know, this communication and such is happening seems sort of familiar to later games, yeah, this type of interface was kind of, you know, once it was made into a scrolling list instead of just a horizontal list of your potential items, was kind of the basis for a lot of the games. I mean, this game came out in '92, so a lot of the designers for, I mean, even things like Fallout played it, and it influenced a lot of games. And then Ultima VII Serpentile came out, and it, you know, further influenced a lot of games because it was, okay, well, we can get away with a lot of this stuff. And then Ultima 8 came out and ruined the Ultima series. Now, the interesting thing here is the Orb of the Moons, as it was originally planned, would have supposed to be, at least at the start, until you fix the shrines, it was supposed to be dangerous to use. Now, it states there, the moon gates have become dangerous. This has no gameplay effects. But it still raises the question of, why does Lord British hand you something that you might very well use to kill yourself? And the Isle of Fire is, I believe this is a retcon. There are a lot of retcons of Ultima 1 through 3. Particularly 3. Any reference to Ultima 3 in the Ultima series is a retcon. Largely because, and I think it's Ultima 3, Ultima 3 takes place on Earth. It doesn't take place on Britannia, doesn't take place in this world. It takes place on Earth. Which of course means that it is very different. But in universe, it doesn't take place on Earth because they don't want to reference that way. And the Brothers in Origin thing is actually referencing the fact that the Avatar's canonical companions, Shamino, Dupre, and Yolo, and Lord British are all from Earth. Now, why the people who are not the Avatar never return, who knows? But yeah, this is again reference to cut content. The moon gates are supposed to be broken. And see that one of the mages tried to use it to go to the Shrine of Humility. It killed him. None of this impacts the Avatar in the slightest. Now, one of the nice things of this is that we do get a free ship. Ships are otherwise kind of a pain to get. They're expensive. And generally speaking, especially with how gold is very heavy, it's kind of a pain to do much of anything with gold. Now, to keep context here, one of the interesting things with this game, and I've mentioned a few already, especially with the potions and the blue potions and black potions and green potions. There are dirty diapers. Everything is afraid of dirty diapers. Everything. And you can use them just like a blue potion or a black potion or a green potion, and I believe it doesn't even get traced to you. Not that it matters, because if I'm remembering correctly, the enemies run in fear forever. So you don't want to do it on somebody that, you will need to talk to. And one of the things that I do like is that even though Lord British is Richard Garriott's self-insert character, well, one of Richard Garriott's two self-insert characters along with Shamino, he's not omniscient. I don't know if it'll come up here, but he doesn't think the Fellowship is bad. He actually likes Batlin, if I'm remembering correctly. I know he likes the Fellowship. He doesn't think that, he thinks that what they're doing or trying to do is pretty good. Then again, their stated goals do sound pretty good. Because it's seems sort of like, everybody gets a kind of miniature avatar quest. Everybody's trying to live up to the virtues as set by the avatar. But of course, in reality, it has nothing to do with that. So, it is what it is. And I stated before, but this game has a lot of text. Well, and if we'd bothered to speak with anybody who wasn't Lord British on the way, we could have potentially found out about the crown jewel. And how we won't be able to actually find out anything meaningful for a while. I want all these passages open, just because I don't remember exactly how to get anywhere. This one seems sorta unsafe. Like, I realize that... Oh, this is the correct bakery. This is where the oven stuff can come in. And we can put that right there. And eventually it'll turn into a, something. And while we're waiting for that, we can drop the bucket and flour, because we have nothing more to do with it. I'm never making bread again, I just wanted to show it off. Bread. How many games let you make bread without doing it from a crafting interface? And sure, it's not perfect. I mean, we didn't add yeast to it, but nor did we add salt. That probably wouldn't be very good bread without the salt. I mean, assuming there's enough wild yeast in the air for wherever Britannia is, that might be fine. But not adding salt. That would probably not be very tasty. And some occasional graphical issues. Most of it's not a huge deal. And I don't remember how to open this. There's a switch somewhere we need to pull. And this is the thing with Lord British's equipment. Oh. And a prison? So, of course, the guards hate the poor, and the fellowship apparently gets away with things that the common people do not. And while I don't like the guard, I like his commentary. More specifically, I like the presence of the commentary, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. And at least part of that is the simple fact that, generally speaking, there is no dissenting voice in a lot of these games. And while this is obviously an over-the-top dissenting voice, it is still a dissenting voice. And I don't think we can actually speak to Lord British about Weston. I seem to recall that being an issue that exists. You can tell a lot of people throughout the game that you will talk to Lord British about all sorts of stuff. Oh, and if we didn't want to bother with going and getting those keys, here are powder kegs. I'm not going to show it off, I'm going to do it the right way. But, Chuckle's room there is terrifying. And to show off that it's not just the parrot that was in Spark's house. It's literally any parrot. Every parrot that you can hit with the gavel knows where the treasure is. How is the treasure still safe? And really here we're just trying to get the key from Lord British's study? I don't remember. I think it's his study, which I think would be right over here. Nope. I'm misremembering. And yeah, there are servants going around turning on and off. Candles and that type of stuff. Candles and lamps and various other things. Even without overusing the number of characters they can have on screen, the game actually does feel, well, as alive as you're going to get for a 92 release. I just wanted to open it. Now, there are a fair number of reagents here, but the big difference is these are stacks of 10. The bag that's in... Is it still yellow? I guess it is. These are stacks of 100. Now, it might seem like it's a bad idea to have the reagents in YOLO's bag when they need to be with the avatar to actually use them, but it really doesn't matter right now. I believe that shield is slightly better. Yeah, I think it's a point of defense better. And magic boots, which as discussed, are worthless. There's some food here. And some money, all of which can go to YOLO. And if he can hold it. Yeah. Now that sleeping bag means as long as we can find some open land, we don't really need to care where we, are. We can sleep wherever. And that's useful because sleeping is, for most of the game, going to be the preferred way to recover HP and MP. And as Lord British stated, either Shamino or Dupre. I think it's just Dupre for now. Are going to be somewhere in one of the inns, taverns. Shamino is somewhere in here, but I don't remember exactly where he is beyond trying to get with a actress. Well, fear sign, that's as good of a sign for any that we're going to... There we go. Shamino. Okay, so I guess Dupre is elsewhere. Getting hammered somewhere else. Now the real question here is, why does he have our pocket watch? Now this isn't huge. But last time we came into Britannia, we didn't take it. Very notably, Ultima 6, we didn't have a watch. Where did Shamino steal that watch from? And YOLO is, of course, giving, talking shit to Shamino. Because Amber plays the mouse in the play about the Avatar. I think it was Sherry. So when we meet Amber, I don't remember if she has two head portraits, but if at the very least when we meet her while the play is going on, she has, a mouse head. Okay, so to praise and shalom. And that mate, really do pray. You don't have pants or boots. It's a good thing I came prepared for this, even if nobody else will. At least you have a shield. And actually, what are everybody's stats? Don't want to give Shamino a bow yet because his combat is kinda low. On the other hand, it would probably be better to do so than to try to give it to Spark or somebody. Okay. And that weight is fairly well distributed now. And actually I can dump some of this crap over to, well, really either of them. To get the important stuff back on the avatar. Food's not important. I believe eventually we will get a unlimited source of food, at which point it will really stop being an issue. But I can't remember if that's this game or the next. It's all kind of become combined in my head. And as to where Jalom is, I have no idea. Could be up here, could be here, could be here, could be over here, or here, or here, or down here. I really don't remember. I don't remember where, well, much anything is. Are you still hungry? And that's one of the other kind of oddities. You know, dang it. It might be under NPC tool. That sign hangs very, very low. And here we have the first weaponsmith, armorsmith. Now, he does not have magic armor. So, of course, ultimately, this isn't that useful. Now, similarly, he does not have magic weapons. Now, that's not a huge deal in comparison. There are a lot of magic weapons, a lot of sources of magic weapons. Some of which are just, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I'm pretty sure we have access to one of the better magic weapons. Essentially right now, we need to go do a minor task, but it is essentially right now, and it's been a while since I've saved. And not saving has historically caused me issues. Fortunately, since we have done some things, we did leave Trinsic, so we would just be revived by Lord British. And there are those moon gates. I believe that unlike 6 or even the games prior to 6, the moon gates just transport you to specific locations now. And really, I'm just going around to where I think the next bit of anything is. If you're not following a guide, this game can be very, very long, because there's a lot of... Man, I forgot how awful this lake looks. Just people dumping all sorts of trash everywhere. One of the bits of trash is actually important, though. It's a fish. It's not actually a fish. It's a treasure chest that looks like a fish and is a corpse, of course. Yeah, still don't know what to say. I mean, the manual tells you how to read Runic. And all of the manuals throughout the various game have, direct translations character to character for Runic. I'm not gonna bother with that. No, this is a trainer, but it's not Minion, so he doesn't matter. Well, okay. He's not Minion and he's not Sentry, but Sentry's only relevant because he can join your party. Huh. And it's a fish like that one. I don't remember where the actually relevant fish is. Now, fortunately, if you do click on the... Oh, stuck on something. If you do click on the fish that are corpses, it will tell you body, so that's useful. And here we get to see the first of the mages, Rudyum. Rudyum is hugely important throughout the series, and even into this game. One of the reasons for it is because of the fact that he knows about Blackrock. He knows how to do some minor stuff with Blackrock. And this is a reference to the magic carpet. It's relevant, it's useful to get. I brought it up when we were in the cheat area that it has a teleporter directly to And I'm gonna save before we actually use it, but as you should, Avatar, as you should. I'm also stealing that leather armor. Rhodium's wand on a piece of black rock, and it explodes. Now, does this work like a powder keg? I don't remember. Also, why does everybody keep a gavel next to their parrot? I'm not taking the wand. I'm not taking that black rock. I want to know where they are. I don't want to be searching through my inventory for them. Actually, that wand is plot relevant. I should take it. And if it's in the reagents bag, I will at least know where it's at. I should also move that Orb of the Moons into the reagents bag. For the same reason. Otherwise, it's going to get lost. Now, the Orb of the Moons actually isn't very, say, useful. Generally speaking. Not because of the reasons of, like, it actually being dangerous or anything that came up as a plot point with Lord British Mattering. Mostly because there's little reason to deviate from just going to these towns as you can get to them. It's kind of useful for fast travel purposes, but generally speaking, the carpet's actually faster, so it's not even that good at that. Or I guess I should say, the carpet is less buggy and less likely to result in you forgetting something. And once you have the carpet, there's little reason to leave the carpet anywhere. We'll just end up forgetting where you left it. And as we saw, we can't really go further or too much further up here because it turns to swamp. Oh no, I'm not even on the correct side here. But I am going to return to Britannia proper. And that is going to be it for this time. We didn't really accomplish anything. I am going to look for Sentry real quick. I think he's here. Which of course means he probably isn't here. He's probably in a different town, possibly Jalome with Dupre. But yeah, this memory of mine is one of the reasons why, for prior games, I always made sure to actually look at a guide prior to starting, and normally had a, at the very least, armor or weapon sheet up while playing. Also, sometimes your movement keys just don't do anything. And there is a tailor. And actually, We can't read it, but I'm pretty sure that says YOLO's bows. If I remember correctly. I want to make sure I don't have money for this. So, yeah, that should be low enough. This is YOLO's apprentice, Coop. We would like a triple crossbow. Oh, we actually have enough to buy it still. Which means whoever has the gold, we need to drop it. Because we get, I'm pretty sure we can get, okay, we actually have to do that legitimately. That's fine. It will, it might be normal crossbow or normal bolts that you can get for free. But the triple crossbow, as its name implies, shoots 3 bolts at a time. It's also pretty heavy. It's ridiculous in terms of damage. Like, I've not been talking damage value that much when it comes to ranged weapons. But our base crossbow, and one of the reasons why I didn't focus too much on trying to get that musket, is the musket does 9 damage. For reference, our fire sword, I think, does 7 damage, 8 damage. That sword of defense does 6 damage. The bow that we have Shamino using does 8 damage, and the fact that he's just using regular ammunition with it means there's no modifier. The triple crossbow does 28 damage. If we add magic bolts onto that, that's 30 damage. Conversely, if we have somebody with, say, the magic version of bows, and the strongest ammunition possible, which is just regular magic arrows, that's 16 damage. Triple crossbows are ridiculous. Also, I'm pretty sure there's friendly fire. So the fact of the matter is, sometimes, especially with his current stats, sometimes YOLO is going to hit us. So having magic armor for the people that YOLO does friendly fire on is important. That is going to be it for this time. We still haven't gotten into any combat, so the fact that we are outfitted at all is going to be very useful when we finally do. Again, that's it for this time. Thank you for watching. I will be back on Monday, probably not with more Ultima 7.